Hello my scenery friends. Today I'm looking for a fence to keep my cows in the pasture, but not this. No, not this one either. I don't think so. Nah, no way. Now this is what I'm looking for, a wood rail fence, and I like the red. The tools for today will be a sharp razor blade and a straight edge. Also, a pair of tweezers will be helpful. I'll be using some of the smallest scale lumber for this end scale project, but you can scale it to any size that you want. Also, I do consider two other material options for thin builds: junk plastic credit cards or styrene sheet. These 1/16 by 1/16 inch balsa strips will work just fine, but that's too thick for the rails. Therefore, the plastic items are in play. You can use your own favorite cutter, but no matter what I use, I like to start with a fresh blade. And it's one of my own preferences, but I like to use a sheet of glass as a cutting mat. Using my straight edge and razor blade, I cut the rails from a styrene sheet. Now these rails are quite narrow, and so I will most likely just eyeball the width as I cut. If they're off by a millimeter, not a big deal to me. It just adds a little more character. The styrene is thin enough that it is easily cut with one or two slices. But the plastic credit card is about twice as thick and requires a couple more gentle strokes. Please be careful and don't press too hard while cutting. We don't want to have an accident. For some projects that I work on, it just needs a thicker look, and I'll use the credit card or thicker plastic material to achieve that result. I usually take a piece of tape and mark on it to create a gauge to cut the material all the same length. I will then cut each rail using the gauge to make 8-foot pieces, and this is for end scale, of course. Here again, use the cutting instrument that gives you the most control to cut the material properly. You know, a Chop It or Northwest Shortline chopper tool, those are great for cutting repetitive pieces. The same method is used to cut the posts for this fence. These are a little longer than 8 feet though, and they'll be trimmed back later. I will be using a thicker CA cement for this project. I want to have a precision spot of glue rather than a flood of it. The posts have been placed on medical tape 8 feet apart. That tape keeps them in place, and I have less of a fight trying to keep them in scale distance from each other. A spot of glue on the posts, and then a pair of tweezers to put the rails into place. And so it goes. A few more spots of glue and a few more rails. Now, in my discovery trip and from the pictures earlier in the video, the fence I favored was built with all the rails at the same elevation. But I prefer to have a staggered look for my fence. And I really like using the tweezers for an almost perfect placement. You can use your favorite tool to accomplish this. Why don't you let me know in the comments how you place the small pieces in your projects. A little more glue and move on to the next line of rails. This might seem a little tedious, but slow and steady and the job gets finished. You can see the stagger start to take shape. And I have a question for you. If you have an interest in this type of detailed videos that help make a layout come to life, would you please consider subscribing to this channel and also sharing this video? Thank you. Now, I did not mark on the post where the rails were to be placed, and that's just my own laziness. So the step I missed showing you is the measuring and marking on each post where the rails were going to be glued on. I really didn't need to, but as you will be able to see, there are a few discrepancies in the rails being exactly level, but I'm okay with that. To me, it indicates an older fence that the cows might have broken or pushed against and displaced a rail, and a new rail was put in place or fixed. It tells me that this is not a brand new fence, but an older one that might have a story to tell. Now you can see the stagger. You know, even sometimes after being careful, a rail or post can act up and cause a little bit of a reading. That's just building. Get back down there. I think an in-scale officer is coming over to check out the progress on the fence. The styrene and plastic did not like my acrylic paint and airbrush, so these were painted with a rattle can. And here's my finished wood rail fence that will keep my cows in one place. By the way, those dancing cows on the billboard, they have their own video. I hope you enjoyed this fence build how-to. Thank you for watching.